Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt incredibly small? Not peaceful, but quiet in a way that makes you question your place in the world. Welcome back to English Stories for Listening. Most people live their lives inside invisible limits. Limits set by fear, by comfort, by what society tells them is realistic. We dream when we are young. But somewhere along the way, we learn to be afraid of failing, afraid of being judged, afraid of aiming too high. And so most of us look at the universe and think, it's beautiful, but it's not for me. But there is one man who looks at that same dark sky and doesn't see silence. He doesn't see emptiness. He sees a mission. He sees a deadline. He sees the future of humanity. His name is Elon Musk. This is not a video about money. It's not about fame, rockets, or electric cars. This is a journey inside the mind of Elon Musk. How a lonely boy, shaped by pain, rejection, and obsession, developed a way of thinking that allows him to challenge the impossible. And by the end of this video, you may start to see your own limits very differently. So stay with me. Let's go back to the beginning. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Lived in Books. Our story begins a long time ago, in the early 1970s, in a place called Pretoria, South Africa. It was a sunny place full of flowers and heat, but for a young boy named Elon, it was not a paradise. It was a lonely place. Imagine a school playground. You know how cruel children can be. Now, imagine a young boy who is a little bit different. He is smaller than the others. He is quiet. He doesn't like sports. He doesn't care about rugby or cricket. While the other boys are running around, shouting and playing, this boy is in the corner, or maybe hiding in the library. Elon was what we call an introvert. He lived inside his own head, and inside his head, it was a very busy place. He asked questions that annoyed the adults. Where does the world end? How does a rocket fly? What is the meaning of life? Most adults would just say, "Be quiet, Elon, go play." But he couldn't just go play. He needed answers. Because he didn't have many friends, he found friends in a different place. He found them inside the pages of books. He read everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. He didn't just read children's stories. He read comic books about heroes saving the world. He read science fiction about spaceships and aliens. There is a famous story about him. When he was just a primary school student, he ran out of books to read at the library. He had read them all. So what did he do? He went to the big serious section and took out the Encyclopedia Britannica. That is a set of massive books that contains all the information in the world. It is not a storybook. It is a dictionary of facts. And he read it from the letter A to the letter Z. He kept all that information in his brain. He turned himself into a walking computer before computers were even common. But life wasn't just about reading. It was painful. The bullying at his school was severe. One day, a group of boys waited for him. They threw him down a concrete staircase. They beat him so badly that he had to go to the hospital. He blacked out. It was a terrifying moment. He learned very early that the world can be a dangerous, violent place. And at home, things were complicated. He loved his mother, May, who was kind and hardworking. But his relationship with his father, Errol, was like a storm. It was difficult. It was heavy. Elon doesn't like to talk much about it, but he has said that it was a psychological torture. So think about this. You are 12 years old. School is a war zone. Home is a battlefield. Where do you go? You go to the future. Elon started to learn how to program computers. He was only 12 when he created a video game called Blaster. It wasn't just a game, it was his escape. He sold it for $5 because that was the first time he realized that the ideas in his head could become real things in the world. He looked around South Africa and he felt like he was in a box. He knew that if he stayed there, he would be stuck. He looked at a map of the world and he saw a place that looked like the land of opportunity. He saw America. He knew deep in his heart that if he wanted to change the world, he had to get to America. Chapter 2: The Hunger and the Hustle. Leaving your home is never easy. Leaving your country when you are just a teenager is terrifying. But at 17 years old, Elon Musk bought a one-way ticket. He couldn't go straight to the USA because of visa rules, so he went to Canada first. This is a part of the story that many people forget. They see the billionaire in the suit. They don't see the teenager in the snow. When Elon arrived in Canada, he was not rich. He was essentially homeless. He had very little money. He had to rely on the kindness of distant relatives. He worked odd jobs. He worked on a farm growing vegetables. He worked cleaning out boilers in a lumber mill. This was dangerous, hot, dirty work. He had to crawl into small tunnels with a hazmat suit to clean up wet, hot wood pulp. If he stayed in there too long, he could die from the heat. He did this for $18 an hour. It was during these years that he learned how to survive on almost nothing. He did an experiment on himself. He wanted to know, how much money do I truly need to survive? He lived on $1 a day. He bought hot dogs in bulk and oranges. That was his diet, hot dogs and oranges. He realized that as long as he had a roof and enough food not to starve, he would be okay. This is a very important moment in his psychology. Most people are afraid of taking risks because they are afraid of being poor. They are afraid of losing their house or their comfort. Elon proved to himself that being poor wasn't that scary. He could handle it. If you are not afraid of losing everything, you become very dangerous. You become free to take the biggest risks imaginable. He studied hard. He went to Queen's University in Canada, and then he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in America. He studied physics and economics. This combination is the key to his brain. Physics taught him how the universe works, the laws of nature that you cannot break. Economics taught him how money works, the laws of value that you can manipulate. After university, he headed west. He went to California. It was the 1990s. The internet was just starting. It was a gold rush. He was accepted into a PhD program at Stanford University, one of the best schools in the world. This was the safe path. A PhD guarantees a good job, a nice house, and a quiet life. He went to classes for exactly 2 days. 2 days. Then he looked at the internet explosion happening around him and said, I can't just watch this happen. I need to build it. He dropped out. He quit. He bet his future on a feeling. Chapter 3: Sleeping in the Office. Elon and his brother Kimball started a company called Zip2. It was basically an internet version of the Yellow Pages, a map for businesses. Today this sounds simple. We have Google Maps. But back then, nobody understood why a pizza shop needed to be on the internet. They had no money. They rented a tiny, small office. They couldn't afford an apartment, so they slept in the office. They bought a futon couch. At night, Elon would code. During the day, the servers would run the website. They showered at the local YMCA gym down the street. It was a grind. It was pure, exhaustion-filled work. But it worked. In 1999, a computer company called Compaq bought Zip2. Elon walked away with $22 million. Now pause for a second. Imagine you are 27 years old. You have $22 million in your pocket. What do? Do you buy an island? Do you buy a fast car? and sit on the beach for the rest of your life? Most people would. It is the logical thing to do. You won the game. But Elon didn't want to retire. He took that money and put it all into a new crazy idea. He wanted to change how money moved. He started a company called X.com, which later became PayPal. Everyone told him he was crazy. People will never trust the internet with their money, they said. It is too dangerous. Elon didn't listen. He saw the future clearly. He knew that physical cash was old-fashioned. PayPal became a war. There was huge competition. There were fights in the boardroom. Elon was actually fired as the CEO while he was on his honeymoon. It was a brutal, stressful time. But eventually, eBay bought PayPal. This time, Elon walked away with $180 million. $180 million. That is freedom money. That is never work again money. That is buy a sports team money. And this is where the story changes from a story about a businessman to a story about a visionary. If Elon Musk had stopped here, he would be a footnote in history. He would be just another rich guy from the dot-com boom, but he didn't stop. He looked at his $180 million and he thought, how can I use this to save humanity? Chapter 4: The Rocket and the Impossible Dream. Elon Musk has a philosophy. He calls it first principles thinking. It means you don't look at what other people are doing. You look at the physics. You look at the raw truth. He looked at space travel. He asked, why aren't we on Mars yet? The year was 2002. People had stopped going to the moon decades ago. NASA was stuck. Rockets were incredibly expensive. He went to Russia to try to buy an old rocket. He wanted to send a greenhouse to Mars to grow a plant just to get people excited about space again. The Russians laughed at him. They thought he was a silly boy with money. They spat on his shoes. They told him to go home. On the flight back from Russia, while his friends were sad, Elon was typing on his computer. He turned to them and said, I think we can build the rocket ourselves. This was insanity. You do not just build a rocket. Governments build rockets. Nations build rockets. A guy with a software background does not build rockets. Everyone told him he would lose all his money. He started SpaceX. He put $100 million of his own money into it. At the same time, he started a car company called Tesla. He put $70 million into that. He put the rest into a solar energy company called Solar City. He literally bet the farm. He kept almost nothing for himself. Then the nightmares began. Building rockets is the hardest engineering challenge in the world. If you make a mistake of 1 millimeter, the rocket explodes. SpaceX launched their first rocket, the Falcon 1. It went up and exploded. Millions of dollars gone in smoke. They worked for a year. They fixed the problem. They launched the second rocket. It went up and exploded. They worked harder. They launched the third rocket. It went up and failed again. This brings us to the year 2008. This was the worst year of Elon Musk's life. The economy of the world crashed. The banks were failing. No one was lending money. Tesla was running out of cash. They couldn't deliver their cars. SpaceX had failed 3 times. They had enough money for one last rocket, just one. If the fourth rocket exploded, SpaceX would die. Tesla would die. Elon Musk would be bankrupt. He would go from $180 million to zero. His wife divorced him. The press made fun of him. There was a blog site that had a Tesla death watch counter. People were waiting for him to fail. Elon remembers waking up in the middle of the night screaming. He was in physical pain from the stress. He had to choose. Does he put his last money into Tesla or SpaceX? If he split the money, both might die. If he chose one, the other would definitely die. He decided to try to save both. He scraped together every penny he had. He borrowed money from friends for rent. Then came the day of the fourth launch. The Falcon 1 sat on the launch pad on a small island in the Pacific Ocean. The atmosphere was tense. Silence filled the control room. 3, 2, 1, lift off. The rocket rose. It went through the sky. The first stage separated perfectly. The second stage ignited, and then silence. We waited. And then the signal came. It reached orbit. It worked. The room exploded with cheers. People were crying. It was the first time a private company had ever put a rocket into orbit. Because of that success, NASA called. They gave SpaceX a contract for $1.6 billion. They saved the company. 2 days before Christmas in 2008, Tesla also got investors to put in more money. They were saved at the very last hour. Elon Musk had stared into the abyss of failure, and he didn't blink. Chapter 5, Changing the Way We Move. Let's talk about the cars. Before Tesla, electric cars were a joke. They were slow. They were ugly. They were like golf carts. People bought them because they wanted to be green, not because they wanted a cool car. Elon used his first principles thinking again. He asked, why are electric cars ugly? Why can't they be faster than a Ferrari? He didn't want to build a good electric car. He wanted to build the best car in the world, which just happened to be electric. The Tesla Model S changed everything. It was beautiful. It was silent. It was incredibly fast. It had a giant screen like a computer. Suddenly, driving a gas car felt like riding a horse. It felt old. But having a good idea is easy. Making it is hard. Elon describes running a car company as eating glass and staring into the abyss. He had to build giant factories, which he calls gigafactories. He had to invent new ways to make batteries. There were times when he slept on the factory floor. He didn't go home for days. He wore the same clothes. He wanted his workers to see that the CEO was working harder than anyone else. He believes that a leader must be on the front lines, not in an ivory tower. Today, you see Teslas everywhere, but you have to remember how impossible this looked 15 years ago. The big car companies, Ford, Toyota, GM, they all laughed. They said, "It cannot be done." Now they are all scrambling to catch up. They are all trying to copy the man they once laughed at. Chapter 6, The Architect of the Future. Elon didn't stop with cars and rockets. His brain seems to work on a different scale than normal people. He sees the human race as a computer operating system, and he wants to fix the bugs. Problem: traffic is terrible. It wastes time. Solution: the Boring Company. He wants to dig 3D networks of tunnels under cities to move cars on electric skates at high speeds. Problem: artificial intelligence, AI, might become too smart and hurt humans. Solution: Neuralink. This is perhaps his most sci-fi idea. He wants to put a computer chip inside the human brain. He wants to connect our minds directly to the internet. It sounds like a movie, right? But the goal is to help paralyzed people walk again, to help blind people see, and eventually to help humans keep up with AI. Problem: we need sustainable energy. Solution: Solar City, now part of Tesla. He wants to turn every roof into a power plant. He is playing a game of civilization strategy in real life. He is moving pieces on a global board. Chapter 7, The Town Square. Then we have the twist in the story, the moment that confused everyone. In 2022, Elon Musk decided to buy Twitter. He paid $44 billion for it. He walked into the headquarters carrying a bathroom sink, making a joke. Let that sink in. Why? Why would a man building rockets to Mars want a social media app? Elon said it was about freedom of speech. He called Twitter the digital town square. He believed it was the place where humanity discusses its future, and he felt it was broken. He thought there was too much censorship. He fired thousands of employees. He changed the name to X. He changed the rules. It was chaotic. Advertisers left. Users were angry. The media attacked him relentlessly. Some people say he broke the company. Others say he saved it and made it free. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it showed us something about Elon. He does not care what people think of him. He does not care about being popular. He cares about his vision of the truth, even if that vision is painful or controversial. Chapter 8, The Philosophy of Pain. What makes Elon Musk tick? If we look at his life, we see a pattern. He seeks out pain. He seeks out the hardest possible problems. Most of us want comfort. We want a soft bed, a steady paycheck, and a relaxing weekend. Elon seems to be allergic to comfort. He believes that if things are easy, you are not innovating. He has a famous saying, failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. Think about that. In school, we are taught that failure is bad. If you fail a test, you are stupid. Elon says failure is just data. It is information. You try a rocket, it blows up. You learn why. You try again. You fail again. You learn more. Eventually, you stop failing. This is the scientific method applied to business. It is a brutal way to live. It ruins marriages. It causes gray hair. It causes sleepless nights. But it is the only way to do impossible things. He also believes in the long term. Not 5 years, not 10 years. He thinks in centuries. He is worried about the grand filter. This is the idea that civilizations rise and then destroy themselves. He wants to get humanity to Mars so that if something bad happens to Earth, an asteroid, a nuclear war, a virus, humanity will still survive somewhere else. He calls it backing up the hard drive of humanity. Chapter 9. What is your Mars? So, here we are today. Elon Musk is still working. He is still sleeping less than he should. He is still tweeting. He is still pushing. SpaceX is building the Starship. It is the biggest flying object ever made by humans. It is a shiny silver tower designed to carry 100 people to the red planet. He says he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact. Tesla is building robots, humanoid robots that might one day do all the boring work for us. Neuralink is putting chips in brains. It is a lot to process. You might love him, you might hate him. He is not a perfect hero. He has flaws. He can be rude. He can be impulsive. He can be arrogant, but you cannot ignore him. His story forces us to ask ourselves a question, a very uncomfortable question. What are we doing with our time? We don't have to build rockets. We don't have to be billionaires. But are we aiming high enough? Are we scared of failure? Are we letting the opinions of other people stop us from trying? Elon Musk was just a kid in a library in South Africa who was afraid of the dark. He was a teenager cleaning out boilers in Canada. He was a guy sleeping on a beanbag chair in a small office. He didn't have superpowers. He just refused to accept the world as it is. He decided to build the world as it should be. Conclusion. The silence returns. So now let's return to the night sky where our story began. Elon Musk's story is not really about rockets or billion-dollar companies. It's about refusing to accept the world as it is. He teaches us that failure is not weakness. That discomfort is not something to avoid. And that the biggest breakthroughs come from people who are willing to look foolish before they look successful. You don't need to build a spaceship. You don't need to move to Mars. But you do have your own version of it. your own impossible goal, your own wall that might actually be a door. The question is, will you push it? If this story made you think differently, if it inspired you to aim a little higher than yesterday, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps the channel grow. Leave a comment below. What is your Mars? What dream are you afraid to chase? And don't forget to subscribe, because we have many more stories about minds that changed the world. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.